Hello, everyone. Today we have with us Jeanna Barrett, founder of First Page Strategy. Jeanna, thank you so much for taking out time and doing this with us.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here.
Well, the excitement more is not that, I'm interviewing an SEO, agency owner. The excitement is more about, your story, the way
Yeah.
you started First Page. You were doing like your prior experience is amazing. You were doing good at your jobs. You have a good marketing
Yep.
experience. And then suddenly, you just leave everything, you go off like a digital nomad and then start
Yeah.
First Page. So
Yeah.
please, it would be great again, obviously, to introduce yourself, but tell us more about the journey, how it happened, and
Sure.
how First Page started.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm Jeanna Barrett, founder of First Page. We started about 5 years ago. In my career, I started in Seattle and worked in tech companies there, moved my way down to San Francisco, spent about 6 years in San Francisco working for various fintech companies, from big to Capital One's technology arm to small startups, and leading, inbound and SEO and content for various companies. And I just realized in 2016, I kind of hit a wall. I was going on vacations, and, working a lot. I drank the Kool-Aid at the company I was at. I was giving everything, my friendships and my lifestyle and what I did in my evenings. They were all wrapped up in my job in my office. And I went on vacation, and I just felt like most people do when they want to go on vacation, right? The whole world melts away. And I was like, why do I want to feel this good only 4 weeks a year? Like, I want to feel this good every single day that I wake up. And so I really started to look at, it was hard at the time because I was at a technology company that was, quote unquote, a unicorn or whatever that is that they use in Silicon Valley. And I didn't want to leave, but life just kind of worked itself out. And I found myself moving to Belize, and I decided to start First Page. And it's actually, I'll just briefly tell you like the story of how we got our first client, because I was just going to be a freelancer on my own. I was like, I don't want to work for anybody anymore. I'm disgruntled. I don't care to make any money, blah, blah, blah. And I wrote an article for Fast Company that talked about how I left my job to work in Belize. And I outlined how other digital nomads could do this. And I, gave all the steps that I did. And one of them was linking to a service that I use to set up my business. And that they reached out to me and ended up hiring me and asked me to pitch them to do their SEO because they just got rid of their SEO company. And so that's how I started an agency, kind of backwards and from another country.
Well, the story is amazing. And, even the journey from there has been amazing. You have grown nicely, and, the trajectory is still upwards. So, all the best for that.
Thank you.
Like talking about being, an entrepreneur, again, it's not easy at all to, leave a good career, a good job. There is fear, there is, nervousness, there is excitement. Again, like how do you overcome that? Was it just did it just happen, or was it difficult?
Yeah.
How did it happen?
I get that question a lot. I think, and that one's hard for me to answer because I have just naturally been more of an adventurous or kind of brave person, I think, than an average bear. So I didn't feel nervous. If there's anywhere in my life that I felt the most comfortable, it was my career. Like, you talk to me about dating or any of that, and I'm like the most nervous person on the planet. But my career, SEO, content marketing, I know it. I'm confident with it. And so I felt confident starting my business. But at some point I reached, a point where I was out of over my head in terms of being a marketer versus being an agency owner or a business owner. And, that has taken constantly, never ending, me admitting that I don't know what I'm doing anymore or that I don't know everything and that I need help. And, reaching out to business coaches or colleagues or other people that have done what I've done before, grown agencies, sold agencies, that was kind of like the turning point in me, figuring out how to be a better entrepreneur and a better leader.
I understand. There's always like some call it inspiration, some call it, like an idol, or, some call it as a mentor. I mean, what has been your inspiration?
An inspiration as an entrepreneur?
Yeah.
I took a sales course the second year of my business, and they asked us to put together like almost a visual mood board. I still have it on my desktop today. It's been on my desktop for 4 years. It's financial and independent freedom is my inspiration. Like, I want to be financially independent and location independent, and my business is the thing that allows me to get there. So that's what motivates me.
Awesome. Well, again, this is turning out to be more of a chat, than like, an interview.
No problem.
Let me, ask you an official question. What do you think are, the like top 3 skills, needed to be a successful entrepreneur?
Yeah. So the biggest one is the one that I mentioned, I think, is the ability to kind of admit you don't know everything and ask for help. You also need really good leadership skills, because a lot of people are going to look at you as being the leader of the company or the person setting the vision. So I've had to spend a lot of time, reading various leadership books to kind of level up and become more of a leader in those ways in front of a group. And then just like a willingness to learn and not think that you know everything, and, dig into areas that you don't understand, and constantly read books and constantly take courses. And it's interesting. Like, I think entrepreneurship and leadership, it's like such a journey, and every year is different, and it's like building blocks to become better and better, and it never really stops. It's really fun.
I understand. As a company, we kind of, we actually implemented Traction last year. So I'm not sure if you have read the book Traction.
It's been recommended to me so many times, and it's in my Audible queue, but I have not listened to it yet.
Okay. So, I mean, like, it's amazing. So, we had read it, like all our, the partners, the directors had read it. But then, when we decided to implement, so again, one suggestion, whenever you plan to implement it, it's better to kind of, ask some outsider to implement it for you, because you yourself kind of, are biased to your business. But anyways, what I was coming to was, so we implemented Traction, using external help and all of that. It was still easier to implement Traction remotely, because we did last 2 years back, like when COVID started. But then, what my question is, okay, fine, it's a model, it's a, like an operating system and all that stuff, it has its rules. But when it comes to company culture, right, it's so difficult to kind of, and, again, fine, you have people who have been with you for years. Okay, fine. But, when you have new people joining in, and suddenly everybody is remote, how do you ensure you still have that company culture, in everyone? You are a perfect person to answer, because, you kind of believe in that remote model. It's not COVID that has taught you, you believe in that. So, I mean, how do you ensure, culture in remote teams?
Yeah. So I could spend the entire interview talking about this. This is what I'm personally the most passionate about. I've kind of like evolved past marketing, and I let my team do it, and I focus on remote culture, because it's so important. And it does have that, a little bit what is perceived to be more difficult, because people aren't in one location with each other. And so we spend a lot of time, I personally spend a lot of time. We have a small team, and I have a personal touch with every single person on the team. So realizing that your remote team is likely from many different cultures, they have like really cool life and culture and all these things that they do outside of working for my company. And so getting to know everybody on an individual basis and making sure that they understand that I care. I interview every single person that comes into the company. We send like personal touch points. So onboarding box to everybody that gets a personal note from me. They get a personal email when they start. So there's really like that kind of personal touch. So you don't feel like you're just a number in a country that nobody knows about. We also do focus, like many remote cultures, on how we get people to connect with each other. And, Slack, like a lot of people, is very pivotal for us for that. So we have a lot of fun Slack channels, and, we have a binge-worthy Slack channel. We have where we talk about like Netflix and podcasts. We have a pets and dogs Slack channel. So really just, seeding the fun in that, because a lot of people want to connect with their colleagues. We also have a business book club where everybody meets once a quarter on video and talks about books. We do an all hands on video where everybody in the company once a month is on video, and we do kind of team building at the beginning of that. So just making sure that you're like really giving people an opportunity, highlighting the people working at the company, and communicating across all these like cultures and people is really important as well. And then I know I'm rambling a little bit, but I'll say one more thing. I make sure that like I define what is not allowed in our culture, right? So I think about all the things that happened in office jobs that made me feel really bad when I was in an office job. And I try to make sure that those things don't exist in our culture. Like we definitely don't have like passive aggressive emails or like, just all that icky stuff that happens at companies and in offices. So yeah, those are some of the things that we do to keep people connected.
Well, amazing. Like I'm sure, these are just some of the things you have mentioned, like considering the time constraint, but, it speaks like, volumes about the way you're trying to, make sure that, people don't feel, just as a number. So thank you for sharing
isolated. Yeah.
As a leader, I'm sure, you get asked this a lot, but, again, we still kind of are now not sure how this, the new variant is going to pan out. So I think this question still remains relevant. As a leader, what would you say was your biggest learning from the pandemic?
Yeah. So we were already remote before the pandemic. So in a lot of ways, it just felt like business as usual from like a professional standpoint. But I think the pandemic reinforced what I already knew. And the reason why I left my full-time job in corporate America is that I believe like all the things that make humans strong and healthy, connections with our loved ones, with our family members, doing things that personally make you happy, hobbies, whether, it's like the sourdough bread thing or all the different fun hobbies that cropped up during the pandemic. A lot of those like support systems and entertainment and love, they exist outside of offices, and you don't need an office or colleagues to like get those things. And that those are the most important things in life. And so if you're able to find a working environment where you can foster that a lot more, like we all were able to in the pandemic, I think that that's where people are the most happy.
Right. Tell us your favorite client story.
Yeah. So my favorite client story I already shared at the beginning. It was how we found our biggest client, who now we've worked with for 5 years. And I use it as an example of like the power of content marketing, because we try to tell our clients, you need to write blog articles, you need to link to people, you need to do these things. And like, that's how we got our biggest client. That is, the reason that we are growing and as large as we are now. It's because we wrote a blog article and we linked to them, and they read the article and discovered our little tiny, company of 2 at the time and hired us. So the power of content marketing is really great.
Right.
And it can lead to new business.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, again, my next question, I know like there's no like copybook answer to it. Every business is unique, but still like, as a process or as a strategy, what does your SEO process look like? I mean, what are the main things you look at? Like how is it like different, or like, what are the things you look at basically?
Yeah. I would say that our SEO process or philosophy, if you will, at First Page is really centered on two things. The first one is that SEO is content and content and SEO, and those are not two different channels. And you cannot build an SEO strategy without a ton of content, and you cannot build a content strategy without optimizing it for SEO. So when we build plans and, proposals for our clients, it's a large content strategy goes into our SEO. The other thing is that we don't focus on keyword volume. I think people get stuck in like, oh, we want to, rank for this keyword. It's got 900,000 search volume a month or whatever, but we really focus on purchase intent keywords. And so you could have high purchase intent keywords or really successful keyword that has a volume of 100, search a month or whatever it is. So we definitely, we focus on content and we focus on high purchase intent keywords.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, I remember, one of our, clients, they kind of, again, it was an agency, a client of an agency, but, we had a discussion where the problem was that, they were kind of ranking in all, on almost 90% of the target keywords that they had given, that they were targeting, right?
Yeah.
And still, when they came to us, we were discussing and they were like that, hey, a client has lost interest in SEO. He thinks that, it doesn't make sense because they are ranking in almost all of the keywords that, they kind of want to rank on, but they're not getting business. And the first thing that came to my mind was, hey, again, I had not seen the website, I was just having a discussion. And the first thing that came to me was, maybe you guys, you're not focusing on CRO. Maybe, your pages are not right. You're not converting or whatever.
Yeah.
But then when I got the details, I looked at it, I realized, there was some CRO issues and stuff like that. But what I realized was, those keywords, like you said, were not actual purchase intent keywords, right? They had volume, but almost like half of those keywords, what was ranking on the first page was a blog page. People were just reading those keywords to get more information, right?
Yeah.
So there was a bunch of keywords, where actual, business was, and they were not focusing on it. So absolutely right. It's all about, finding, your buyer persona, finding the right,
and then writing content with keywords for every stage of the funnel. So a lot of people, it sounds like what they were doing was focusing on top of funnel. So people want to read about, learn information, whatever, but they're not, in the bottom of the funnel, ready to purchase, ready to specifically look at that company. So they needed to write more bottom or middle funnel keyword content. Yeah.
Right. And I think also, a lot of, again, there's no right and wrong, but I think still a lot of people or marketers still consider, let's say, SEO, as SEO. Just kind of, working on keywords, ranking, then paid campaign as a paid campaign. But, depending on the business, depending on the keywords, depending on the funnel, like you said, sometimes you make a piece of content rank, but then, retargeting is so, less expensive, then it makes sense to do some retargeting on those pages. And that will get, like you said, focusing on the funnel. So, absolutely right.
Yeah, that's a large reason why we're trying to move away from, branding ourselves as just an SEO agency, because SEO is really a great tool that's part of the larger pie. Like you said, retargeting, inbound has so many different tools in the marketer toolbox, and to pull one of them out and to hire a company to do one, but then handicap them to touch the rest really doesn't work. We have had clients in the past where they're like, no, we only want you to work on SEO. You can't touch our lead gen team. You can't talk to our social team. And I'm like, but how are we going to distribute the content that has the keywords in it? And how are we going to, put a CTA that then captures a lead on the content focus on the keywords? So it's really, SEO is it's one piece of the pie of the larger marketing matrix. And it all needs to be done and thought about as someone moves down the funnel to be done correctly, so.
Right, right. Well, trying to rank for rich answers, has a lot of
Yeah.
value. How do you
Yeah.
strategize for it?
Yeah. So we specifically build content plans and budget around all the things to put in our content that would help rank for rich snippets. So we do lots of multimedia, infographics, videos, images, checklists, bullet points, like all the things that are going to come up in a rich snippet, and then just making sure that we're clearly answering the question that matches the search intent, and making sure schema is involved and all of that. So
Right. Like you say, like looking at, like various forms of content. I think one thing also which people, miss out is, they don't like look at the power of repurposing content, right? I mean,
yeah,
there are like a lot of, like B2B businesses that write so much content. I came across a business that, they were writing like almost like around like 50 odd, like blog articles a month, creating
yeah,
guides and stuff like that. And there was so much content already. And again, like converting it into a video, embedding a video on that article, right? Video is
yeah,
still easier to rank as compared to written content, and then
yeah,
like people are not using it. So uh,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, it surely makes a difference.
Yeah, we do. Something that's really easy and relatively inexpensive is creating a blog summary video of your blogs. You can, we've found inexpensive help on Fiverr to create text videos or text recaps, or you can have someone on your team do a recap or read out the recap of the blog and then posting that again on YouTube. It's really like doubles search, right? Because YouTube is a search engine, and so is Google. And then you can put that video in the blog, and it can potentially help with rich snippets. So that's definitely a great strategy to kind of expand the reach of the blog post that you're doing.
Right, right. But how have you seen link building change over the years? I know we talked a little bit about it, before the
Yeah.
interview, but I mean,
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, those of people that have been involved with SEO for a long time know about the whole like black hat, white hat stuff. And link building, I think, has likely one of the richest histories of marketing of how it has evolved. But recently, just from when we started First Page, there was still, I think, a lot of purchasing of links happening. And I do still see some of that going on. But I would say that in the last couple years, we have specifically shifted away from that and moved into content creation and outreach, and building a massive team that does outreach and works with partners and other brands to create content, and work on linking on our site, on their site, or whatever it is. And that outreach team is what I think is more of the way of link building is going, in addition to just creating content that generates links, right? Which is sometimes hard. But if you think about like, what content can we create that isn't evergreen, that hasn't been created a long time ago? And for us, those things are like data surveys or tools where someone can analyze their website and get a number back, or a calculator, or whatever it is. Those things that aren't created all the time often generate like a lot of links as well. So we're more of a content focused link building place, and I've seen that's kind of the change, that we started out purchasing and we've moved into content link building.
I understand. Well, what are, according to you, are the most common mistakes, inbound agencies make?
Yeah. So I see a lot of inbound agencies have these like one-stop shop packages. Like their packages, they're going to create one offer for you a month that's going to have a landing page, a blog post, a form, or whatever it is. And I don't understand how that works for brands hiring that, because in the 5 years I found, every single inbound lead that I've had, every sale that I have worked, every founder I've talked to who's looking for marketing support or inbound support, none of them are the same. Absolutely none of them. They all have pieces of a marketing plan and need other pieces, or they're at one point and that another brand is at another point. They need this team member, they have this internally or not. And so just this kind of, package approach I don't see how that works. And I think that's a mistake. And really, to be successful, you need to create a custom plan, a custom team. You need to work like you're sitting inside of that company, and that's not going to look the same for any two brands that you work with. So, yeah.
Understand. What are your thoughts on, optimizing for voice search?
Voice search. Yeah. I honestly don't think it's any different than what you should be doing in SEO for anything else. The strategy is the same. It's going to be the same of what I just explained for rich snippets. You want to make sure that you're clearly answering the question, that you understand the keyword intent, you understand the content and the search intent. You're building that into schema and into your content. And so really, whether we're talking about ranking for rich snippets or ranking for voice search, it's really those key pillars of SEO in 2022 are going to get you kind of the same results.
Right. But any special tips that you would like to, share with our audience that, they could use and benefit from?
Any special tips? What I don't see enough brands doing is stepping back and understanding their brand and doing the brand work to define your brand and your messaging and who you're trying to go after and the different personas and where they are and who they are, how you're going to reach them, what products they care about. There's a lot of foundational work that should happen before you're doing marketing and likely before you're even building your website. And then when you build your website, by God, don't build it without having an SEO involved. And that happens so much too. We get these websites and we're like, how did you build this website? And it was no SEO was involved whatsoever. And, the links are not correct. There's no meta in the website. And so, yeah, just make sure that if you're building a brand or if you have a brand, it's time to step back and do some foundational brand work and make sure that your homepage and your website is built with SEO in mind.
Jeanna, I again, I know we are short on time, but, I like doing this quick rapid fire, at the end. So a list of, 3 to 5 questions. I mean,
sure.
Play like a sport. So whatever comes to your mind, just,
Set it
up. Perfect. So are you ready?
I'm ready. Perfect. It's like a game show.
Describe yourself in 3 words.
Oh my gosh. Creative, strong, and funny.
Texting or talking?
Texting.
Who is your favorite superhero?
Oh my gosh. I'm like the girl that doesn't watch Marvel whatsoever. If I had to go with any superhero, it would be Wonder Woman because I believe strongly in female leadership.
Well, I love her too. Are you a morning person or a night person?
I hate to say it. My mom was right. Now that I'm almost turning 40 in January, I'm a morning person, even though I used to be a night person. But now I love getting up at 6 a.m. and having my whole mornings before I start working.
Well, Jeanna, thank you so much for being a lovely guest.
Thanks for having me.
Fun having you.
Yeah, thank you.